time. We had Roman Reigns on the show tonight call Seth Rollins a lot of things in that closing segment, but he also said that Triple H was Seth's work daddy. I've never heard it put that way, but apparently Triple H is Seth's work daddy. And Roman pointed out that the only way Rollins can win a world championship is by cashing in a Money in the Bank briefcase. And he's not wrong when he says these things. Boy, Roman Reigns, he brought the heat in the closing segment here on this show. And Seth Rollins, for his part, because they had a contract signing, hell of a lot better than last week's promo. Roman also needled him about that boring promo last week that I talked about in the Raw review because that promo sucked. Tonight was a lot better because we had both of them in the same building at the same time. Isn't it amazing how much better things tend to be when you get both participants in the ring together at the same time to joust verbally instead of them just cutting promos on the camera? We had the contract signing tonight with Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins for their World Heavyweight Championship match at SummerSlam. It is now official. And I still do, as I sit here right now, I still do feel as if when they put this card together and they try to figure out what closes night one, what closes night two. I mean, I suppose a lot of it will depend on exactly what's planned in these main events. Is there going to be some kind of big, big angle or swerve or heel turn or something like that? I still feel like Punk and Cody get the night two slot. But they took a giant leap tonight towards getting me a little bit more excited about this match, more so than I was last week. So that was one of the highlights of the show tonight, was the Roman and Seth exchange. The other highlight of the show, and this was not really a surprise, was the Gauntlet match to crown a number one contender for the Intercontinental Championship. I said this last week. WWE had one job. This was going to be the easiest thing for them to do on the road to SummerSlam, more than any other decision that they have to make between now and the beginning of August. A very simple decision is to make sure that Chad Gable comes out of this gauntlet as the number one contender, and we set up Gable and Penta for the Intercontinental title on that show, and that's what they did. We had, what was it, 7 men in this gauntlet match tonight, and we got the right outcome. Chad Gable will challenge Penta for the title, his first potential singles championship in all the years that he has been in this company. Over a decade. You want to go back to the NXT years, and he is on the cusp. He's on the verge of winning his first singles title in an age where people win titles all the time. It's pretty insane to think that Chad Gable has yet to hold a singles championship in his career. Hopefully that will change. I love Penta, but that shit's got to change in Minneapolis. So I was very happy to see that. That was the easiest choice Triple H is going to make all SummerSlam season. They also set up another match for the PLE, which is one that I've been talking about. It seemed pretty obvious that we were headed for a 6-man tag, and now we know for a fact that we are getting a 6-man tag. It is going to be Jacob Fatu and the Usos. Jey Uso has not been on the show for 2 weeks now. Ever since all that news broke about him and his personal life on TMZ, we have not seen Jey Uso. He's got to get his own house in order first, I guess. But he has a SummerSlam match. It's going to be him and Jimmy and Jacob taking on LA Knight, Royce Keys, and I guess the newly babyface, Solo Sikoa. Because based on what he did on the show tonight, it sure felt like this was supposed to be a babyface turn. I don't know if the crowd took it that way. It's not like it got some big reaction. But they did set the 6-man tag up for that show. And I'm actually wondering, as I look back on the reaction to the announcement of it, because it was LA Knight who had the mic in his hand and made the announcement. I wonder if the people in the building in Dallas tonight thought they were getting the match tonight, only to find out, no, it's going to happen at SummerSlam. Because, it's the sort of match that you would expect to get on TV and not at SummerSlam. But it always felt like these guys have nothing else to do on that show if you don't put them in a 6-man tag. What else logically would they even be doing at SummerSlam, right? They've all been beefing with each other now for weeks. This seemed to be the direction that made the most sense. So now we get Solo Sikoa in a bit of a different role for a change. No longer with the MFTs, no longer with the Bloodline, on his own, having to associate now with LA Knight, that could make for some interesting television. I'm game for anything different. I think that there's a great baby face. Not deep. It's there. It kind of bubbles up every now and then, but buried within Solo Sikoa is a great babyface run. And I hope we get the chance to see that. Unfortunately, we also had some terrible television tonight because there was a horrible segment. While it did further things along for another potential Summerslam match for the World Tag Team titles, we'll see if we end up getting that on the PLE or if they do it on Raw. We had a segment with Maxine Dupree, Austin Theory, Braun Breaker, and Logan Paul. They were out there taking a victory lap. Otis and Tozawa. We got acting on the show, and not very good acting. We had some drama. Why, Maxine? Why? This is what Otis and Tozawa wanted to know. Why? We tried to warn you. We tried to warn you that this man was no good. He's bad news. Oh, very melodramatic. I'll tell you what is really just confounding to me is that we are potentially on the verge of getting an announcement that Braun Breaker is going to SummerSlam and is going to be involved in a match against Tozawa. Yes. This appears to be the SummerSlam direction for Braun Breaker. What have they done to Braun Breaker? We got a tease of a return to WWE because nothing can be kept secret anymore. We got a tease for Big Cass on his way back to WWE. No Enzo. Not yet. It's early yet. But we got the date, August 3rd, which is the Monday after SummerSlam. He's coming back. With any luck, it would be for a singles run. But I have a feeling this was only the first tease. There'll be a tease for his tag team partner probably coming next week. And it'll all build to August 3rd. So we got our first vignette for that. We're going to run through this entire Raw show. We'll go through the whole thing, all for you guys. I am the Solomonster. Thank you for joining me here. It is a Monday night, July 13th, 2026. And boy, that's July 13th. I did not realize that until just now. I attended my very first live Monday Night Raw 28 years ago tonight. On this very day. Got to meet Mick Foley and Owen Hart. Boy, that was a fun show. That was a fun, man, those days were wild. The summer of 98. Oh, what a time. Super chats are open, so if you get them on in, I'll be reading all of your messages. If you got questions, get them on in. If you want to support, get them on in. And we'll hang out and we'll have some fun. And with any luck, we will hit our goal for tonight. Let's find out what that goal is going to be. We had quite a bit of fun last week. All week long, really, would be the booker. Will we be booking anything tonight? That's what we're going to find out. Let's take her for a spin. Spin it long, spin it hard. There we go. Highway to Hell, that's right. 390. Okay. Is that a 9? That is a 9. 390. It was kind of tiny there on my screen. 390. All right. 390 likes is the goal for tonight. You guys know what to do. We're already at 244. I don't think that's too unreasonable. And maybe we will do some B2B a little bit later on. We're going to talk about a different B. We're going to talk about Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman. They were the ones who opened the show tonight. And Brock has a brand new t-shirt that I'm sure is, I haven't checked, but I'm sure it's up right now on WWE Shop. Talk shit, get hit. And they had a group of police officers walking behind them as they made their way down to the ring. They stood guard at ringside. They basically formed a human wall. And the fans were chanting for Obafemi. So Heyman did his usual intros, introduced all the Dallas police officers outside the ring. And he said that Obafemi turned down a championship match with either champion because he is just that obsessed with Brock Lesnar. He goes, that is stalker level. Heyman called Oba the biggest dummy that he's ever met. He said Oba turned down a title match to come after Brock like a psycho ex-girlfriend. He said Lesnar is obsessed with Oba, which scares him half to death. He said he called Lesnar when he was out hunting, and he's obsessed with Oba Femi. So he said he went to WWE officials. He requested a no-touch clause, but it took a lot of lawyers. He said he went to a judge in Dallas. He got a restraining order against Oba Femi. He said he got another restraining order against his own client. This was news to Brock Lesnar. He looked over at Heyman and was like, what? What are you talking about? But he said that Lesnar is a law-abiding citizen who would abide by the rules of the restraining order. So the lights went dark. This brought out Oba Femi. And the police officers, they got into the ring. They stood in front of Heyman and Lesnar. Oba told Heyman, explain what the hell this is. So Heyman said that Oba violated a restraining order, and he told the cops to go do your job. So they exited the ring. Lesnar and Heyman did. Oba, he grabs one of these cops, and he just hurls him out over the top rope. And usually there's somebody there to catch them. There ain't nobody there on the outside. He just threw him out of the ring, and he crashed and burned on the floor. Then he grabbed two of them, double choke slam. There was another one in there. He picked him up, and you know how he throws people halfway across the ring? He chucked this guy out of the ring. And at least with him, they had the other cops out there to catch him and break his fall. So he wiped out all of the phony cops that were at ringside. And so at that point, it was time for Oba to speak, and he took issue with Heyman calling him stupid for giving up his title match. Oba said they both know that had he gone for a championship, had he gone ahead and challenged either champion, which is what he was entitled to do, at SummerSlam, he said that, you know that Brock would have cost me the match. Doesn't sound like much of a ruler, does it? This guy's supposed to be the ruler. He's the king. He doesn't sound very sure of himself. I gave away my guaranteed championship match for SummerSlam because I just knew that your guy was going to interfere and fuck it up for me. What a stupid fucking thing to say. Weeks after the fact. Oh my God. Oba said Lesnar can no longer run from him inside Hell in a Cell. No more BS, no more low blows. Basically, at SummerSlam, this gets settled. I will say this, always great intensity from Oba. He was on point. I thought it was a great promo outside of that one stupid line there. So, great stuff from Oba otherwise. He looked like a world beater out there throwing guys around. The explanation, though, about why he sacrificed his SummerSlam title shot, we still have no clarity, by the way, on whether or not he actually completely ditched his championship match, and that means he gets no title match, and he's going to have to win the Royal Rumble or something now, or if he's just kind of tucking it away for a later date. Because I mentioned this on the podcast last week. They have their own official WWE post show after Raw. I don't know if it's live, but it's got Sam Roberts and Megan Morant. And I didn't hear it for myself, but I had somebody mention it, and then I read, part of what they said. And the night that happened, they were talking about it as if Brock and Oba was basically, it wasn't just replacing Oba's title match at SummerSlam. Oba basically gave it away. It's not like, it's in my back pocket, I can take it out whenever I want. They were talking about it as if he sacrificed his title shot for the right to go after this man. Which, if you think about it, the stipulation was that you're guaranteed a championship match at SummerSlam, right? It is specifically for SummerSlam. So without WWE clarifying things here, and even Paul Heyman has used language that would suggest that he gave it up completely. But I can't say that 100% for fact because WWE just hasn't clarified it yet. But, him coming out here, first of all, this is coming a few weeks late. If he was going to argue this, then this should have been said weeks ago. That's number one. But it's like he's coming out here and saying, that if I would have gone ahead with my championship match, that your client would have cost me. And I'm just sitting here and I'm listening to this and I'm going, yeah, you big dummy, because you're the one who came out on television week after week and poked the bear. You're the one who came out on television week after week after he beat you at Clash in Italy and called him all kinds of names. You called him a coward. You called him a bitch. You questioned his manhood every single week. So if he did come out and cost you, you would have nobody to blame but yourself. Like, there's just no way of explaining this in a way that makes Obafemi look good. And at this point, you may as well not even address it. If you're going to address it, you address it in week 1. You don't address it 2 or 3 weeks later. What a stupid fucking thing to say. But in any event, it is what it is. It's done. What's done is done. And we have our Hell in a Cell match for SummerSlam. And at this point, that's all that matters. But like, I'm listening to what he's saying here. And I'm like, if you're so concerned about this man getting involved in your business, maybe don't go out on television and call him out and call him all kinds of insults, right? You're only inviting trouble by doing that. You would have gotten exactly what you deserved. Meanwhile, you went through this entire King of the Ring tournament. He never showed up, right? He never popped up even once. I just decided to give it away because I knew you would fuck it up for me. See, he's playing 3D chess. I knew I didn't want to give you the chance to mess up my title opportunity, so I just gave away my title opportunity. Good job there, buddy. Michael Cole was hyping up what he called a multi-week series on the history of the Shield to build to the Rollins and Reigns title match at SummerSlam. They also mentioned that Roman Reigns, this was announced earlier, is going to be at Saturday night's main event, but he is not coming alone. He will be there as well as Jalen Brunson of the New York Knicks, who just underwent surgery on his wrist. The NBA champion, Jalen Brunson. So they're going to be together at Saturday night's main event this weekend. We had IYO SKY and Roxanne Perez one-on-one. Roxanne had Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez with her. IYO landed a springboard moonsault out on the floor, and she tossed Roxanne back inside. Liv Morgan distracted IYO as she was trying to get back in the ring, and Roxanne was able to blindside her heading into a commercial. So we come back. Roxanne is got her all tied up in a tree of woe, kicking at the knee, and IYO is able to get her knees up to block a moonsault attempt. She hits a butterfly backbreaker. There's the patented IYO SKY missile drop kick. She went for the Meteora in the corner, nobody home, so the knees hit the turnbuckles. Roxanne was stretching her knee. IYO was able to reverse into a crossface, and that got broken up. IYO went to the top. She was going for her moonsault. Liv and Roxanne, or Raquel rather, they interfered. They wanted to try to get her to stay grounded. So at that point, Roxanne rolled up IYO. IYO, though, was able to reverse it. And basically, in reversing it, she sat on Roxanne's face with the legs hooked, and she got the pin. So when the match was over, Roxanne and Liv, they attacked IYO. Here comes Sol Ruca, Women's IC champion, going to attempt to make the save. She went for a dive out of the ring onto Raquel, but she got caught, and Raquel swung her head first into the barricade, then whipped her up into a powerbomb position, and very hard, she slammed her up against the, I can't even say the ring post, whatever that LED casing is around the ring post. She slammed her into it. Back inside, Morgan hit Oblivion on IYO, and then Roxanne and Raquel, they held IYO so Liv could blast her in the head with the Women's Championship. Looked like she got her pretty good with it, too. It looked like she had a small cut on her forehead that was starting to bleed. I heard like a thump when she hit her in the head. I could have sworn I heard a thump when she smacked her in the head with that belt. So it looked like she caught her pretty good. Solid match, predictable outcome. Again, IYO was the one who's going to SummerSlam to challenge for the championship. She wasn't losing to Roxanne. I'm surprised they didn't just do a run-in and give us a non-finish. But of course, she was not losing this match. I thought Raquel's attack, actually, on Sol looked good. I do wonder if they rematch them at some point. I wasn't expecting a title change in their first match. Just felt too soon. It's still too soon. But if they wanted to have Raquel and Sol on the SummerSlam card for the IC title. Like, if they book that match on that show, they're doing a title change. Put it that way. If they run that match back, I do think we get a title change. It just didn't feel like the right time, though. You know, when they did it, was it 2 weeks ago? Whenever, maybe it was last week. All these matches just seem to run together. I feel like we're just constantly seeing the same people and just like different combinations of the same people week in and week out. It could be hard sometimes to like remember, wait a minute, did we get that match last week? Or did we get that match 3 weeks ago? I don't know, because 3 weeks ago and 2 weeks ago and last week, they all kind of run together, right? Sometimes it feels that way. They all kind of feel the same. But I thought her attack on Sol looked good. Puts more heat on the Judgment Day, so it made sense what they did here. Then we had my least favorite part of this entire show. The worst thing on the show. The Vision. Or what's left of The Vision. We had Austin Theory and Maxine Dupree, new couple on TV, along with Braun Breaker and Logan Paul out to the ring to celebrate regaining the World Tag Team titles from the Street Profits. And if you remember, we had the Maxine Dupree heel turn in that match. She was swapping spit with Austin Theory. Logan Paul tried to speak first, but he handed the mic over to Maxine, and she was getting good heat. She was kind of getting the Dominic Mysterio treatment there where they didn't want to let her speak. And then it was kind of weird because I understand that there were people who were booing her and she was trying to let the boos kind of rain out a little bit. But it just felt to me like they were stalling. Like she was just stalling like crazy. I'm like, just say something. It's just like, come on, let's get to it already. And this was just dragging out and out and out, and like they were waiting for something. And then here comes Otis and Tozawa. So maybe they were late on their cue. I don't know. They walk out and they just look crestfallen. Whatever word, melancholy, devastated. They look like they were mourning someone's passing. Okay, they're in a very bad mood, very deep depression. They come walking out and they make their way down to the ring. Tozawa asks Maxine, can we talk? And Maxine says, you know what, guys? I got this. And she tells the other members of the Vision that they can leave the ring. They're like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah. So Breaker and Logan and Theory, they all go outside and then give Maxine the ring all by herself along with Alpha Academy. And Tozawa asks her, like, what are you doing? He said this, you're a wonderful human being. Theory is all wrong for you. So now Maxine had to act. She said that she still loves Otis and Tozawa. Now the fans are booing, and they start chanting, you sold out. She said that Otis and Tozawa, they told her that she couldn't be with them anymore if she was going to be with Theory. She said that it's not fair because they don't know him. So Otis then remembered telling Maxine that Theory is bad news. And Otis said that, I have something that I've been wanting to get off my chest for a long time. So Theory starts laughing outside the ring and says that, gets up on the apron first. And he says, are you going to confess your feelings for Maxine? Tells Otis that people like you don't end up with people like her. So Otis pulled Theory from the apron into the ring. Braun Breaker, he got back inside. He put Otis down. Breaker tumbled out to the floor when Tozawa low-bridged him out over the top rope. Tozawa did a dive, a suicide dive, out of the ring at Braun Breaker. And Breaker was supposed to catch him, and he didn't. He just kind of... it's kind of weird. Like, these suicide dives look worse and 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 worse by the week. I'm sorry. More often than not, I'm watching these suicide... And for every good one that we see... It's just a guy flying through the ropes, taking this completely unnecessary risk to do what exactly? He throws his arms out, and the other guy puts his arms up to block him, but then he's got to sell it. Like it had some sort of impact. It looks fucking horrendous, and I wish there was a fucking moratorium on these dives. So anyway, he was supposed to catch him, and he didn't. So then he picks Tozawa up, and he grabs him and gave him a belly-to-belly overhead suplex. He gave him a suplex so hard, I don't believe Tozawa touched the table. One time. He went over the table. Never touched it. And then hit the, hit the office chairs or whatever. So then back in the ring, Otis, he ended up getting the better of Breaker in Theory. Otis took a step towards Theory. Theory is kind of down, cowering in the corner. And Otis takes a step towards him. And Maxine steps in front of Otis. And Maxine is acting like, no, she's being nice to him. No. I wish I knew that you would have felt this way. And she made it look like she was about to give him a kiss. But before they could kiss, Theory comes up from behind Otis and delivers a low blow. And then you could see the smile on Maxine's face. And she pie faces Otis, down to the mat. Breaker gets back in the ring. He puts Otis down with a spear. Breaker held Otis while Theory put on a pair of brass knuckles and punched Otis in the face with them. And Theory also held up Otis for a super spear. Breaker hit the ropes back and forth to build up speed, and then he took him down with a spear. This was not good. This was not good. I kind of gave you the nuts and bolts of what happened here, but boy, I sped it up a little bit. I felt like I was watching this segment on 0.5x speed. This was just terrible television. Like, I know what they were trying to do here. Get more heat on Maxine, get more heat on the Vision. And I'm not saying that there was no heat on them. I mean, the fans were booing her. But I don't know. Just they were like stretching this thing out. Even at the end there, like after they took out the baby faces and they're kind of standing around and then nothing's happening. Instead of them just sort of posing and then leaving, they're just standing around. And I'm like, are they waiting for something? Like something was off here with this segment. And I just didn't think it was very good. But I'm also like, I'm looking at Braun Breaker and I'm just like, what have they done to Braun Breaker? I mean, this guy went from being a world championship contender to being the third wheel in his own group. Someone in my mentions, and I wish I would have jotted the name down, because that's all I posted at the end of this segment. I said, what have they done to Braun Breaker? And there was somebody in my mentions, and it's actually very true. He said, it's literally the Toy Story meme. Said, Braun is Woody and Oba is Buzz. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what it is. Oba is the shiny new toy. It's not Braun anymore. And again, if you were to put Braun and Oba next to each other, and you were to say to me, we want to elevate somebody as our next megastar, you have these two choices. Who do you go with? I'm going with Obafemi. I'm not even saying they got it wrong by pushing Obafemi, but by pushing Obafemi, that doesn't mean that you have to take Braun Breaker and break him down. And as if like we're going to break him down and then eventually we'll just build him back up again. I'm just like looking at this going, they just set up a potential SummerSlam Tag Team Championship match. We are looking at a situation where Braun Breaker at this year's SummerSlam is going to be occupied in a fucking match with Otis and Tozawa. I mean, compare that to what, he was doing just any number of months ago. That's quite the come down. And it's not like they haven't had opportunities to do more with him and really bust him out as like a true badass on the show. And boy, is he taking a back seat. I guess when they're ready for him, they'll put that extra effort in, but that's certainly not happening right now. This feels like a title match for SummerSlam. You got 2 nights, I'm sure they're going to want to have the Vision represented on the SummerSlam card. They could do it on Raw. This doesn't exactly feel like a PLE match, but you got 2 nights. If they want to do 13, 14 matches, I could see this being one of them. I know the tag team titles on either brand, typically they don't get a lot of shine. They don't get a lot of attention. Did we even have a tag team title match at WrestleMania this year? I don't even remember. What I do remember is last year, the SmackDown tag team division was cooking. And even they couldn't get a match at WrestleMania, so they gave them TLC on TV instead. I don't remember what they did with the tag team titles this year. Better question is, who gives a shit? Jimmy Uso, he came out during the commercial break. He was asking where Solo Sikoa was when all of a sudden Royce Keys jumps him from, okay, everyone is telling me nope. That's what I thought. I was pretty sure that neither championship was defended this year. You have two sets of tag team titles. I don't remember either of them making the WrestleMania card. There he is. There's Solo Sikoa. That was the reaction right there from WWE Creative when one of the writers suggested, why don't we do a tag team title match at WrestleMania this year? That was a visual representation of Triple H's reaction. Anyway, Jimmy comes out. They're at commercial. Where's Solo? Royce Keys from SmackDown jumps him from behind. No reaction for this. I'm not sure most of the people in the building even knew who it was at first. So they're brawling, and Adam Pearce comes out and he says, if you guys want to fight, I'll get a referee out here and you guys can fight. And so the match started during commercial. When they came back, it was joined already in progress. Amazing. They were not back on the air for more than 2.5 minutes, maybe 3 at the most. And then they went to another commercial break. Oh, God. After the break, Keys caught Jimmy with a power slam. They cut to a split screen all of a sudden, and they show an SUV pulling up to the building, and Jacob Fatu gets out. And the camera stays with him. So we have a split screen. We have the match on one side. We have Fatu walking through the back, through the crowd, down to the ring. He gets in the ring. He jumps Keys for the disqualification. I want to say the match itself went 5 or 6 minutes. 3 of it actually aired. So I can't say anything about the match itself. The match was nothing. The match was a backdrop to get Jacob to come down and do what they were going to do when the match was over. Jacob sets up Royce in the corner for a hip attack with the chair placed around his head. And the entire time he's telling him, I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to do this, right? Because these two are tight and they go back many years. I think they even mentioned here that Keys was trained by Rikishi. That's his connection to the bloodline, his connection to the family. So he was going to come in for the running hip attack. Before he could come in, though, we hear the voice of Solo. Not me. Solo Sikoa. He's over by the timekeeper's area. And he's telling Jacob, don't do it. Don't do it. He gets in the ring and he tells him, blood is thicker than water. And I'm coming home to the family. So then he holds up the ones. Jimmy comes over, he puts up the ones, and Jacob comes over and he puts up the ones. It's like old times. And then Solo flashes a smile, and he turns on Jimmy and drops him with a Samoan spike. And I'd be lying if I told you that this got like some big reaction, like, oh, the big babyface turn for Solo Sikoa. Didn't really get as much of a reaction as you would expect a moment like that might get. And I think a big part of it, I don't think that people know who to root for in this situation. Like, they like LA Knight. Beyond that, though, who are they supposed to be cheering here? Like, when the Usos come out, and Jey Uso in particular, they love to yeet, right? So they'll do the yeeting and everything. They'll want him to run it back, and they're cheering him like a babyface. But in this situation, he's really not. Jacob had a lot of fan support. And then they beat him in May, right, at Backlash. And then they beat him again in Italy. He lost twice in the same month to Roman Reigns, and now he's his lapdog in the bloodline. So Jacob's another one. Like, what have they done lately to Jacob Fatu? And so the reaction to him is very mixed now when he comes up. Some people cheer, some people boo, some people don't know how to react. Solo Sikoa, they want to turn him babyface. I think that he could be a good babyface, but people don't know what to make of this right now. It's like they're kind of confused on, okay, where should we be aligned here? Who's in the right? Who's in the wrong? What's going on here? We like LA Knight, but like, I don't know. And we don't know much about Royce Keys and what's going on with these. It's all very like weird. It's just a very weird dynamic right now. So they start ganging up on Solo Sikoa and Royce Keys. Here comes LA Knight, and he's got a chair. So he backdropped Jimmy to the floor. He attacked Fatu with the chair. So the bloodline is sent into retreat down the aisle. Knight gets on the mic, and he's going through all of his usual catchphrases. We're going to smack you back to factory settings and all this other stuff. And he lays down the challenge for SummerSlam. The three of you against the three of us in a six-man tag. And I do wonder how many people in the building thought they were setting this up for like after commercial. But they set this up for SummerSlam. Again, this is the match that I was expecting. I've been talking about this now for probably a couple of weeks now, that this is what we were headed for, and now they made it official. All the segments that they've been doing with these guys, especially LA Knight. LA Knight's been ragging on the bloodline now for weeks and weeks. It was building to this. And it's a way to get all six of them on the show together. Now, is Solo Sikoa going to turn on his partners? Is he going to pull a horseman? You know, when Flair used to turn on Sting, when Sting would make the mistake of trusting him, and then Solo ends up with the family? Because I'm curious, coming out of SummerSlam, what do they do with Solo Sikoa? Does he stay on SmackDown? Does he end up on Raw? Is he going to be on his own? Is he going to be more of a babyface? Do they want him as part of another group? I don't know. There's things that you can do with him. He can be very entertaining. The stuff with the MFTs was just a complete, absolute waste, I think, of his personality. I mean, he's a naturally funny, entertaining guy. He wasn't allowed to show that when he was in the bloodline initially because he was the silent enforcer. He didn't say anything. And then with the MFTs, he had to play it very stoic and very straight. And every now and then, he would kind of crack jokes and he would laugh and everything like that. But he was like Timu Roman on SmackDown. And it's like, this doesn't work. It doesn't suit him. So we know what we're getting at SummerSlam, but I'm wondering what's next for him. I don't know. I'm curious to see how they're going to use him, if they're just going to lump him back in with another group. But I think Solo the babyface, it's going to work a lot better because it's really something we haven't seen from him on the main roster. We saw it in NXT. Remember in NXT when he initially debuted, he was like the Street Fighter. Not really a funny guy, but he was a babyface. The fans were behind him. He's got that in him. LA Knight, don't even ask me what they would do with him coming out of SummerSlam. Probably back to the doldrums with him. I don't even want to venture a guess about what's next for him. He may be eating the fucking pin at SummerSlam for all I know. I wouldn't be surprised. We go backstage. Oh, this was great. So we go backstage, and the Vision are walking along, very proud of, what happened in their segment earlier on. And they bump into Paul Heyman, and Paul Heyman is applauding the Vision. In theory, wondered, does that mean that we're all back together? Heyman said, Maxine was so magnificent tonight. What the hell do you need me for? And he walked away. And on commentary, Corey Graves wondered if Paul Heyman had just handed the reins of the Vision to Maxine Dupree. This is where we are now. Where Maxine Dupree may well be the new leader of the Vision. She may be leading Braun Breaker and the rest of the Vision here. I laughed because my interpretation of what we saw here, this was the write-off of Paul Heyman and the Vision. Now, there's been talk about WWE would want to keep Heyman with Braun Breaker, if nothing else. That could still happen. And we don't know what's going to happen when Bronson Reed comes back. I feel like Bronson Reed, we're in that range right now where he should be coming back not all that long from now. I mean, he could probably be back in the next few weeks, I would think. But this was a way to get Heyman away from the Vision. And like, if you're Paul Heyman, you're probably looking at this going, thank God, get me out of here. Get me away from this. This ain't working no more. I want nothing to do with this. So, I don't know. We may be looking at a brand new leader here of the Vision. Heyman was the Oracle, right? He was Seth's Oracle. He's been the advocate, the wise man, the Oracle. What would Maxine Dupree be? What would her nickname be if she was the new leader of the Vision? Adam Pearce, he was having a phone conversation backstage with somebody. He told whoever it was that he was on the phone with that he would be there if he was needed, which is very interesting. And then Obafemi showed up. Pearce told him that Heyman was bluffing. Those restraining orders he talked about, they don't exist. And Oba said he knew. He said it tells him that Heyman and Brock are scared. I do wonder if the beginning of that phone conversation, if he was on the phone with Nick Aldis, and this was some kind of reference to something that's happening with Aldis, and I'm here if you need me. Because I think we know after what happened on Friday, Aldis is going to have some sort of, I can't even say wrestle. It may end up being a brawl. It may be something non-sanctioned. But I think it's safe to say that what is Gunther going to be doing at SummerSlam? He's going to be fighting Nick Aldis. So maybe he was on the phone with Nick Aldis, and Aldis was like, look, I got some business to tend to. I got to do what I got to do, and I may need you to kind of take the reins for a little bit. That was kind of how I read that. Now, after this, during the commercial break, actually, Byron Saxton had Bayley come over. And he wanted to ask her about Lyra Valkyria. And Bayley said, you know, I said last week that I would address Lyra in the ring, and I think that's what I'm going to go do right now. So they played her shitty music, and she made her way to the ring. This was during the commercial break. By the way, she came out during the commercial break. You know, Byron introduced her out into the stage area. And again, very little reaction. I'm listening to the beginning of this music. I mean, we hear it every time Bayley comes out, but like, I can't believe she's still coming out to this music. Has she been the role model? When was the last time that she was even the role model on this show? Is that still supposed to be her gimmick? Role model. This is the garbage that they're sending her out to the ring with. I can't believe she's still coming out to this trash. Comes down to the ring. Come back from commercial. She's already there. She wants Lyra Valkyria to join her in the ring. Lyra comes out, and certainly a new look for Lyra. Yeah, I said when she turned, somebody called her, she's an angry bird now. I said, yeah, she's an angry bird. I don't know what kind of bird. This is like, I don't know. She looked like she hadn't slept in a while. She looked very unkempt. No makeup on. She looked like one of the unwashed masses as she made her way down to the ring. She actually kind of looked, and somebody said she looked like, oh God, somebody said Daphne. I looked at her. I thought she looked like the crazy Nikki Cross days. She comes down to the ring. Bayley wants an apology. Lyra thinks that she's the one who deserves an apology. If Bayley could realize that her own problems, she would realize why so many people turn on her. If she could just recognize her own issues. Lyra says that she's always lied to make Bayley feel good because the reality is that Bayley is nothing more than a doormat. Her face shouldn't be on the posters. She drags everybody down. She's not a locker room leader. And you've always been the worst of the four horsewomen. Oof. That's the big burn there in that promo. A lot of people who feel that way. She's a diseased bird. Or bird flu. Who said that? Yes. How come I didn't think of that? Lyra has bird flu. That's exactly what she. Oh my God, that's perfect. That's fucking perfect. She walked out there. She looked like she had H1N1. She looked like she had bird flu. So Bayley, she shoots back with some of her accomplishments. You know, first Grand Slam champion, one half of the first women's tag team champions. And she's going to add to that resume beating Lyra Valkyria in Madison Square Garden. Because the two of them are going to have a match at Saturday night's main event. So Lyra threw a cheap shot, got blocked. She ended up dropping Bayley anyway with her own Bayley-to-belly suplex. And so there you go. That's the setup for a match now on Saturday. Look, we needed more matches. We had, what, three of them officially announced coming into tonight. We needed at least one more announced for Saturday's show. Not the match I was expecting. Not exactly a marquee addition to the card. But it's a match. It was either going to be here or it was going to be SummerSlam. Now, the way that Lyra was out there, dressed up looking, again, I said she kind of reminded me of crazy Nikki Cross. Was H1N1 the swine flu? I don't know. I got my flus confused. I thought it was H1N1. Did I get the wrong strain of flu? She did not. She did not have swine flu. It was swine flu. Okay. Well, well then what the hell was bird flu? I diagnosed her with the wrong condition. I could be sued for medical malpractice. Anyway, we've had reports recently about Tatum Paxley. And Tatum, I think, didn't Tatum just lose to Zarya at the Great American Bash? It sure felt like that was going to be her write-off from the NXT brand. Would not at all be surprised if we get a Tatum Paxley appearance on Saturday and she helps Lyra win the first match, and then maybe they run it back with a second match at SummerSlam. I could see that. But if they were going to debut Tatum Paxley, that would not be a bad place to do it. At Madison Square Garden, as part of this feud, I would say probably something I would consider doing. And then you can kind of pair her off with Lyra and they can do something together. And Bayley may have to enlist some help of her own. We had another Reigns and Rollins retrospective here. Part 2, the breakup. And they show clips from 2014 of Seth putting the chair in Roman's back on Raw, breaking up the Shield, and a whole bunch of other things. Then we had the teaser that I mentioned here at the beginning of this review. We had it was a silhouette, but then you could clearly see it was Big Cass. They had some close-up shots of his eyes, right? They were kind of just barely obscuring it, but you could see who it was. And you heard a voice. It was his voice. What happens when the whole world calls you can't miss? What happens when they're wrong? And at the very end, we see the date 8/3. August 3rd is a Monday. It is the Monday after SummerSlam. I don't know where that show is. Probably in Minneapolis, I would imagine. Not at US Bank Stadium, but I would imagine they're not going to stray too far from where they're going to be. So Big Cass is coming back, and I'm watching this, and I'm like, man, like they're just giving that shit away. Because I have every expectation that next week or the week after, we're going to get a similar vignette, and it's going to have Enzo Amore. Enzo Amore was not seen. He was not heard. They were just showing old clips of, Big Cass, and there were signs, soft. They were showing all of that. But no Enzo here. Doesn't mean Enzo is not coming in. It doesn't mean Enzo is not going to be part of this. He's absolutely going to be part of this, I'm sure, in some way. So maybe next week we'll get the Enzo portion of it. They'll put the date up again. So I wouldn't read too much into the fact that he wasn't a part of this segment here. It got me a little excited watching this just because I was like, oh, well, maybe they're actually going to push him as a single. But then I thought about it. I said, nah, it's probably just week 1, right? Enzo will be there in week 2 in the promos, and they'll just build to it. But they're going to come out. I don't even know if they would have the rights to use their old music. They change everybody's fucking music that they had back in NXT back then. Maybe for the initial appearance, we'll hear that music. And believe me, people are going to know. And it would have gotten a great... it'll still get a good reaction, but why spoil this? Why not save this for a surprise? August 3rd is in Des Moines, Iowa? You're going from SummerSlam in Minneapolis to Des Moines, Iowa? That's weird. What a weird place to bring back Kaz and Enzo. Okay. He's coming to Des Moines. Still, I would have saved this as a surprise. Look, I stand by what I said. You're going to get huge reactions initially for them in different cities. You're going to be able to coast on that for a few months. And then after a certain number of months, the question becomes what's next? Because you're bringing them into a situation where if they're coming in as a tag team, they're coming in as, a team in a dead division. And I just don't know why you would want to put a ceiling on this guy. He's very tall, right? I wouldn't be putting a ceiling on him. He could be doing some stuff as a singles. Maybe they want to reintroduce him as part of a team and then transition him eventually into a singles push. Maybe. I hope so. I don't think there's any grand plan to stock up on tag teams or anything like that. So it's just going to get to a point where you get to a fork in the road. It's like, well, now what? I just hope they don't keep him there for too long. They may come back and be the ones to eventually beat the Vision to win the tag team titles. But again, what does that mean? It's kind of crazy to think they never won the belts the first time. If they were to come in and win the tag team titles, it would be their first reign together, I believe. But then what? Then what? Who's next? Finally, we got something real good on this show. It was time for the start of the Gauntlet match. To crown a new number one contender for the Intercontinental Championship, the winner would go on to SummerSlam for the right to challenge Penta. First fall here of this match was Dominic Mysterio, who had JD McDonough in his corner, taking on Joe Hendry. And I'll give you one guess. If Joe Hendry got an entrance on this show, the answer is no. They came back from commercial and they were in the middle of playing his music. So the streak continues of no real true entrance for Joe Hendry on Monday Night Raw. Maybe it's in his contract that he's not allowed to get one. Maybe they're contractually obligated to send him out there during the commercial break. So Dom got the advantage early, sent him into the ring steps when they were fighting outside. Back inside, Hendry, though, caught him and dumped him with a fallaway slam. JD McDonough distracted Hendry, though, which allowed Dom to hit a 619. He followed with a frog splash. Adios, Joe. See you later. Joe Hendry is bounced in the opening round here of this Gauntlet match. Thanks for coming. The next match, Javon Evans taking on Rey Mysterio, or Dominic Mysterio. Javon Evans against Rey Mysterio would have been a much better match than this was. So they joined this coming back from the break already in progress. Evans dumped Mysterio on the floor, hit him with a dive. McDonough tried to interfere in the match. Again, the referee, though, caught him this time. Evans knocked McDonough to the floor. So then Dom caught Evans with a 619, and he was headed up to the top. We were going to get the same finish that we got to the first match until Danhausen came out. And he rolled out onto the stage in his magic mobile, and he's sitting there in his little, again, tank or whatever the fuck it's supposed to be. And he puts a curse on Dom. Now, Dom is standing on the ropes, right? Because he's getting ready to hit the frog splash. But he's looking over at Danhausen, and when he gets cursed, there's a burst of pyro, but it's from the wrong ring post. So Dom sees this, and he's like, what? And he looks over at McDonough at ringside. He's like, go get him. Right? He's sending McDonough after him. But in doing so, this is distracting Dom. And Dom has no idea that Javon is preparing for an OG cutter. And he catches him with the OG cutter on the way down, and he pins Dom. So Dom is eliminated. See, so the curse worked after all. It just has different ways of working. His match with JD McDonough, by the way, Danhausen I'm talking about, on Saturday night, is now a no disqualification match. So let the fuckery commence. Maybe The Miz and Kit Wilson will do their zombie walk down to the ring, and they'll help Danhausen win. Third fall here in this Gauntlet match, and the best fall. Javon Evans one-on-one against Dragon Lee. Funny, like once Dom was eliminated, this is where the match actually got good. Now, as Jim Ross would say, and good luck to JR, who may be going in for surgery as early as this week, for brain surgery, business is about to pick up between these two. There was a spot outside the ring that I actually shouted, holy shit, when I saw it. Because we had Javon Evans outside. Dragon Lee came in, and Javon hip-tossed him over the timekeeper's barricade. Like, it was in such a way where he was flying so fast off the hip toss, he almost landed headfirst on the floor, but man, he fucking vaulted him over, and it's just all exposed, concrete outside over there. There's no mats or anything. So he took this hellacious bump on the floor. And now Javon, he is going to circle around the entire length of the ring outside. He's kind of walking, and then he's walking, he's picking up speed, and he charges at Dragon Lee, who now is back to his feet in the timekeeper's area. And he just goes, he collided with him, but the momentum carried Javon over the barricade into the crowd. And I think Dragon Lee tried to like get himself over the barricade with him, but he couldn't, so he just fell to the floor. But these guys were just going nuts here. They were cutting loose here in this fall. So back inside, Lee went for a tornado DDT and he spiked him with it. The crowd is chanting, "This is awesome." A little while later, Evans was draped over the middle rope. Lee hit him with a double stomp from the top. So Lee was setting up for something else. Javon hooked him into a cradle and he got the flash pin. This was a lot of fun. And this was the point where the crowd was really like getting into it here. Then it led into the fourth fall, which was Javon Evans against Rusev. Now, remember last week, they kept Rusev looking very strong. He actually won a match. And then he was putting everybody in the Accolade. And it's like, of course, they're setting him up to be like the final boss of the Gauntlet, which actually, technically, he wasn't the final boss. Ethan Page was the final one. But Rusev's music hits. Dragon Lee is still out there, right? He's shaking hands with Javon, and he's kind of taking forever to leave the ring. He's got his back turned now. And then we found out why, because Rusev ambushed Evans from behind, knocked him into Dragon Lee, and so Dragon Lee got knocked out of the ring. So Rusev, he just dominated during the commercial break here. Evans sent Rusev to the floor, though. He landed a dive out onto him. Then he dove into, off the top rope. He jumped, landed right into a Uranagi. He got planted. Rusev then got the Accolade applied. Evans, though, he's fighting it. He's fighting it. And he's struggling. He's trying to crawl over to the ropes, and the fans are with him, man. The fans are trying to cheer him on, and they're trying to get him, go ahead, get out of it, get out of it. So he's struggling to make the ropes, and he does, but then Rusev locks in the Accolade for a second time. And it looks like, okay, he's going to go out, but he doesn't go out. He starts twitching and flailing and fighting, and the crowd is really getting up for it, right? Because they want to see him break out of this hold. And he's slowly getting to his feet with Rusev on his back, and now the fans are really into it. And then Javon falls backwards and breaks the hold. So this was just a great struggle here that he was putting up. And there was a moment in here where I just thought for sure, okay, the match is ending right here. And it didn't. And he fought out of it again. And again, the way they worked this, I thought was very smart. And it was a great way. The fans were fully invested and behind Javon here. Evans went for the OG cutter, but you could see he's on rubber legs. Like, he doesn't have a whole lot left. Goes for the OG cutter. Rusev, as he's coming off the top there, Rusev kind of late, but he kind of threw a shot, he tagged him with a punch on the way down. He got the Accolade applied for a third time. And this time, there was no getting out. He tried. Rusev, at one point, he kind of put his arms, crossed both of his arms right over Javon's face. You couldn't even see his face. And he's just wrenching back on it, and then the referee finally calls for the stoppage. And the fans sounded genuinely surprised and disappointed and started booing Rusev. So that was the end of Javon Evans. If there was any doubt up to this point about what WWE was going to do, as far as the outcome of this gauntlet, because the only other thing that could have happened here would have been a Javon Evans win. Once Javon Evans was eliminated, I breathed a sigh of relief. I said, there's no way they can fuck this up. There's no way. Now, there might have been some people out there actually thinking that Ethan Page was going to win this in the end, but I was not one of those people. So at this point, I'm like, okay, they made the right decision. It's not over yet, but they made the right decision. But we had Rusev against Chad Gable. And here he cuts, speaking of bad music, here he comes. He comes down to the ring. German suplexes. There was an overhead throw. Gable came off the top. Rusev, though, caught him with a Uranagi. That's as good a time as any for them to go to another commercial. But, you expect that with these gauntlet matches because they go for so long. Rusev went for a superplex. Gable fought out of it. He flew off the top, though. Big flying clothesline. And he was trying for an angle slam. And Rusev got out of it. He locked in the Accolade. Gable fought out of it. Suplex Rusev, German style, backwards into the top turnbuckle. And then Gable climbed the ropes, caught Rusev with a victory roll, and he got the pin. A little Brett and Bam Bam action from the King of the Ring finals in 93. I like it. I like it. Rusev didn't like it, so he attacked Gable even though he lost, put him in the accolade. Meanwhile, Ethan Page is making his way down to the ring because he is the next and last entrant in the Gauntlet. And here his boy Rusev is softening him up. He's making his job easy. So Page had the advantage early on here, and it looked like it's going to be a layup for him. Of course, though, Gable made a comeback. He escaped an egoplex. He hit an angle slam for a near fall. Gable went to the top. Page caught him, though, and he was trying for an avalanche power slam. Gable slipped out. He got the ankle lock applied. Page tried to escape. Gable, though, he held on like a bulldog, man. He rolled through. And eventually Page had no choice but to tap out to the ankle lock. And it got a good reaction, too. Gable wins. People are happy. This is great. I was a little worried there because they were so into Javon. I was like, man, I hope they don't rebel against everybody else in this match. But they were with Gable. They were very happy to see him win. And Penta came out afterwards. They had a brief stare down and they shook hands when it was over to make it official for SummerSlam. And Chad Gable will now go to his hometown of Minneapolis in his home state of Minnesota to challenge for what may well be his first singles championship in WWE. And if they know what they're doing, I love Penta, but man, there will never be a better time to put that championship on Gable than now. And I probably said that years ago when he wrestled Gunther for the championship, when his little girl was in the front row. But here we are years later. Years later, there will never be a better time to put the IC title on him than now. Don't make the same mistake you made with Sheamus. They waited and they waited and they waited, and now he's not even in the company anymore, and he will never win that championship. You're in his hometown. This man is coming off arguably the best match of the entire year in AAA. Certainly one of them. So I said coming in, there's only one job. As far as I'm concerned, you got one job at SummerSlam. I love Penta, but you got one job at SummerSlam. Don't fuck this up. Most important thing here, though, they got the outcome right. I might have had Gable enter the Gauntlet maybe a match earlier, but I get it. You know, they wanted to give Javon the rub. He wasn't going to win, so let's use the Gauntlet as a way to try to elevate him a little bit. We'll let him go out there and survive for a while. I don't have any issue with that. The most important thing is that the right man won. Now, after this, we had an SUV pull up backstage, and out comes Roman Reigns. Isn't it amazing how he manages to show up at just the right time at the end of the show? What if he hits traffic on the way from his hotel to the building? What happens then? It's a good thing they weren't in L.A. You know, I've been to L.A. a couple times. I've never had the displeasure of driving in L.A. I've heard horror stories, though. You know, about people who want to go out to the restaurant. The restaurant is, I don't know, typically maybe 5 or 6 minutes down the road from where they are. They get in the car. 35 minutes later, they arrive. I guess they didn't have that issue in Dallas, Texas tonight. Gets out of the SUV, and he puts his hand out, and here comes Lard. His friend Lard has the championship and hands the world heavyweight title to Roman so that he can make his way into the... Now, is it Lard or is it Lord? Maybe it's Lord. We had this debate last time. I think I called him Lord Mark. That might have been what Roman called. Lord Mark is what I said I was going to call this guy. So we'll call him Lord Mark. He was back, and he handed Roman his championship. Meanwhile, Adam Pearce was in the ring to introduce Roman out to the ring first, and he asked Dallas, Texas to acknowledge him. Seth Rollins was out next to burn it down as Roman took his seat at the head of the table in the ring. Seth took a seat right next to him. This would be like the equivalent of like if you go into the bathroom, the men's room somewhere. You got a whole row. Sorry, ladies, you might not be able to relate to this, but you've got a whole row of urinals, right? And they're pretty much all open. And you go to the far end. You're going to use the urinal all the way at the far end. And then some other guy walks into the bathroom and he decides, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take the urinal right next to you. What the fuck are you doing? You have all of this space. Why are you standing next to me? Roman is sitting at the head of the table here, and Rollins takes his seat as close to him as he possibly can. He's getting all up in his personal space. What are you doing here? And he immediately signs the contract. He's not wasting any time here. So he gets on the mic, says he knows that this has to be tough for Roman. But look, there are just some things in life that are certain. Death, taxes, and Seth Rollins beats Roman Reigns every single time. Cruising. Yeah, probably. Yeah, if you're in the bathroom and somebody does that, they are probably cruising. They're cruising for a bruising is what they're doing. You need to back up. You need to not invade my personal space. You get splashed on. So he goes, sign on the dotted line and let's get this over with, which is my saying when it comes to these contract signings. Just sign the contract and get this over with. Because there's no sense in delaying the inevitable. Seth kicked his feet up on the table like he owned the place. Fans sang his song. Roman said he wishes Seth would have come out and did that last week before he bored the crowd half to death. I said, that's a shoot. That's a shoot. See, Roman didn't come to work last week, but he was clearly watching the show, and he felt the same way that I felt, which is that promo last week from Seth Rollins was a fail. It was boring. And now you don't have to take my word for it. You could take it from the champion. He said the same thing. But he said, Seth, right. Rollins is his number one hater. But that's the only thing that he is number one at. He somehow has these people confused, thinking that they're on the same level. So at SummerSlam, he shows the difference between the two of them. He ends any of this nonsense about Seth ever competing with him. He shows him what number one looks like. And with that, Roman went, and he signed the contract. So Seth thanked him for keeping his title warm since WrestleMania. Says he'll be taking it from him at SummerSlam, and he'll see him next time that Roman wants to show up for work. And with that, Seth exited the ring, and he began to make his trek to the back. Roman didn't look too thrilled with that comment. As Seth is leaving, he says, where do you think you're going? So that's it? You're just going to sign and run? Okay, how about we play your game? What if you do win? Then what? What happens next? What, you going to carry it for a couple of months and get hurt again? I mean, don't act shocked. That's what happens every single time. Some would say that it's self-sabotage because some people just can't handle the weight and the burden and the pressure of being the top guy around here. So Seth turns around and he begins to walk back towards the ring, comes face to face, almost nose to nose with Roman in the middle of the ring. And Roman is smiling and Seth, not so much. Rollins says, you got something to say? Just say it. So come on, spit it out. Say it. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. Roman says he'll say it because everybody's thinking it. He said, you want to know how I know that you're number two? Because after all these years, you still need a Money in the Bank briefcase to become champion. And if you thought that that was bad enough, you had to fake an injury to even use the damn thing. Because let's just be honest here. If there was ever a time for this guy to be a number one, I mean, come on, your work daddy, Triple H, damn near runs this joint. They pretty much gave you all my stuff. And you still couldn't walk in my shoes, number two. Said, you're number two, always going to be a number two. I'm number one, always going to be a number one. Just acknowledge it, bitch. I will say Roman was, he was on a roll here. Roman was, he was cooking this guy here. Rollins asked him, is that all you got? Said, that's all you can come up with? He goes, come on, Roman, tell me how I'm never going to be you. Tell me how I'm never going to draw as much money as you. Tell me I'm never going to main event as many WrestleManias as you. Anything you can tell me, I've told myself every single day for the past 15 years. But you and me, we're not fighting the same fight. But he had to look in the mirror and be proud of what he fights for. He being Seth. And then, see, up until this point, everything was going really well. And then he goes, because I'm a visionary. I'm a revolutionary. And I'm like, okay, now you lost me. Every time he goes into this visionary, revolutionary spiel, he loses me because now he's going into shtick. Up until this point, you had a good back and forth and they're trading barbs and he's kind of weaving in like maybe real life feelings or feelings that you could believe that, you know, he might be really feeling. And so it's like, okay, this is going well. And then as soon as he hit that, I'm like, all right, I'm out. Enough with the visionary and the revolutionary stuff. I've always said this, like, what is so visionary and revolutionary about anything that Seth Rollins has done in WWE? Nothing. His wardrobe. That's about it. I don't even know what that's supposed to mean. What makes him so revolutionary? Where did this come from? When did this start? I don't know. But I wish he wouldn't have said it here in this promo, because now it just became any other wrestling promo. But he did say he's very glad that he's not Roman Reigns. Rollins tagged him with a right-hand shot. And he cheap shotted him, basically. And now Roman is down. He's putting the boots to Roman here in the middle of the ring. Chris says, I think of you, Solo, when Seth does that. Every fucking time, dude. Every single time. Yes, the architect. He's an architect. He's a revolutionary architect. But yes, he cheap shots Roman Reigns. And now he's putting the boots to him. Not really getting much of a reaction either. Because people, you know, they like Seth, but they like Roman more. Let's just be honest here. And I think if you give them the opportunity and you say you can only really cheer for one, they're going to cheer for Roman over Seth, even though Roman's a total heel every time he's out there. So they weren't really reacting much to it. He mounts him. He starts raining blows down. Where's your bloodline now? He says, I know who I am, you piece of shit. I know who I am. Hey, maybe Netflix will edit that out the way they edited out the Cody Rhodes blood from the beginning of Raw. Did you hear about this? So I mentioned that story that on the replay of the Night of Champions PLE, they had the cage match with Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker, and Braun got busted open, right, in the course of that match, hard way. And it was great because it added to the match, and like half his face was kind of covered in blood. It wasn't anything overly egregious or anything, but it was a good visual. And so then, and again, it airs on Netflix internationally. I don't believe they made any edits on the ESPN version. People started talking about how on the Netflix version, though, after the fact, they put a giant blur over Braun's face because they wanted to cover up all the blood. And I guess they felt like they didn't have a really like good enough way of just editing part of his face, so they put a fucking blur. He looked like an entity, like a demon of some kind. And this is how they, and so if you watch the last half of that match, it's literally a blur. And it's just the most preposterous thing. So then I saw earlier today, if you remember at the beginning of Raw last week, Gunther attacked Cody Rhodes backstage and he slammed a car door on his head. And then Cody comes up bleeding. And again, it's like trickles of blood from, you know, the top of his head or whatever. Apparently now, on the Netflix version, which, I mean, Raw airs on Netflix, so of course it would be on Netflix. But if you go back and I have not gone back and looked yet, I just read this before, there's some sort of glitch effect to hide the fact that Cody was bleeding. What in the world is going on here? What is going on with Netflix? This is awful. This is so ridiculous. What are these? I have to imagine, if I had to venture a guess, I have to guess that there's some sort of, and this is just me spitballing here, I could be completely wrong because I'm just trying to figure out what the hell's going on here, that in certain countries or markets, that sort of thing has to be censored. And so therefore it ends up being censored for everybody. But again, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because does Raw even get a rating anymore? What would this show be rated as compared to some of the other content on Netflix that shows far worse than just trickles of blood on someone's face? I would love to know the rules that govern censorship. What gets censored and what doesn't on Netflix, because none of this makes any sense to me. But yes, now you have glitched out Cody Rhodes. You have blurred out Braun Breaker. What's next? Who's going to be erased next? See, now you would, if this was airing on television and you had your VCR and you popped your VHS tape in and you push record, you would have that physical media that nobody could ever censor. You would have the original OG copy of it that nobody could ever take away from you. See, I have a theory here, because what's old usually becomes new again. And like collecting vinyl records has become like a big thing, apparently. Vinyls are like back in style. You watch, VCRs and VHS technology is going to make a comeback one day. I'm not saying on like a massive mainstream scale, but it's pendulum's going to swing back and there's going to be tons of people who are going to want to have like VCRs and VHS, right? What's old is new again. It always comes back around. Especially as you take more physical media away from people, they're going to gravitate, I feel like, towards some of these older technologies. I threw away a lot of them, but I still have a lot of my VHSs, and at the moment, I don't really have anything to play it on. I actually do have one. I have one VCR somewhere, but even if I never watch those tapes again, like some of these pay-per-view, like they're so valuable. Like I would never give them away, because you just never know. It's because of shit like this. Anyway, off my soapbox here. Back to this. So he's yelling at Roman. He's cursing up a storm. Finally, the fans are kind of singing his song. He goes to leave, but he notices Roman is on his knees. So he comes in for the stomp. Instead, though, when he comes in, he eats a Superman punch. Roman then moves the table over. He gets Rollins up in a powerbomb position, but Rollins has the mic in his hand, and he bashes Roman in the head with the mic. So Roman drops him. Seth delivers a pedigree. Now he's waiting for it. He's waiting for Roman to get back on all fours, and when he does, he flies in for the stomp. And Seth Rollins stands tall to close out the show. I thought this was a great segment, and as I said before, it's almost like these things work better when you have somebody to play off of, and you're not just talking to a blank slate. That promo last week was terrible. This segment here, this contract signing, was great. And it's going to get a lot of people, I think, that much more interested in seeing Seth Rollins against Roman Reigns at SummerSlam, which should be the point. When you do a segment like this, you want to get people excited, right? You want to get people to think, man, I can't wait to see these two guys just go at it. You don't want to like scare them off and be like, man, this was terrible. I have no interest in seeing this match now. So mission accomplished. You know, they did what they had to do here with this. They got some stiff shots in there. Or Roman did anyway. I think that Money in the Bank crack was a nice little low blow there. It was a little weird that Jimmy and Jacob didn't come out. I think Seth, again, he even mentioned to Roman when he was beating him down, like, where's your bloodline now? I asked the same question, like, where the hell did they go? It's not like they got chased out of the building. But you know what? They have their own issue going on. They have their own match for SummerSlam, so it's fine to leave them out of it. They have their own issues to deal with. The last hour or 45 minutes maybe or so of this show, which was really the gauntlet and the contract signing, best parts of the show. So again, like that, I say third hour. It's not a full third hour. They did go longer than usual, though. I don't think the show went off the air until about 11:15. So they did almost go 3 hours tonight. First 90 minutes plus, not that great. Not that great at all. Very, very missable. But the closing stretch of the show I thought was very good. All right, where are we on the likes? Let's take a look here. 390 was the goal. We're at 503. Very good. So we got some Be the Booker coming up here in a little bit. Thank you guys for being with me here tonight and hanging with me. We ain't done yet. We still have the Dynamite post show coming up on Wednesday. SmackDown on Friday. Saturday night's main event coming up on Saturday. I'm going to do a whole preview tomorrow. on the Uncrowned Wrestling Show. We got a lot yet to discuss. But we're going to start this discussion with Death Scythe. This is, hey, Solomonster. Got to ask, what if Jeff Hardy never left WWE in 2009? Because I could see him and Batista in a program instead of Batista feuding with Ray and The Undertaker. Well, if you remember, Jeff got into some trouble right when he left WWE in 2009. So if he didn't leave, he would have gotten into trouble regardless. So I don't know. I don't know what he would have been doing, because that would have had an effect on things. Would he have worked with Batista? If he's going to stick around for a few more years, then very likely, yes, the two of them would have worked together. But it doesn't change the fact that he got into some legal problems that would have happened regardless. We got Death Scythe. Plus, it is bizarre that Batista and Jeff never had a proper program or singles match. Yeah, again, eventually everybody wrestles everybody. If you would have stuck around, they would have worked together. It is inevitable. Also, he says, now that I can say that out loud, if Jeff Hardy thought CM Punk gave him problems that year, heel Batista would have given him a lot worse. Hollywood Batista against Jeff Hardy. Could have been fun. Could have been a fun program. Robbie. So I guess we have our answer about King of the Ring. Oba completely relinquished his title opportunity for this because Brock, quote, would have cost him anyway. Dude, it's so... They actually made Oba look worse by saying that. They actually made him look worse. I won King of the Ring. I went through the first round. I went through the semifinal round. I flew all the way to Saudi Arabia and won the finals. I earned the right to challenge for a championship at SummerSlam. But I gave up my shot because I just knew Brock was going to fuck me over. You know what a dweeb that makes him sound like? Also, they were trying their best to keep Dean Ambrose's face out of those flashbacks. I noticed that too. He slipped in there a few times, though. They did their best to hide Ambrose's face in those retrospectives. You can't ignore it. He's part of that Shield history, whether they like it or not. The Lunatic Fringe. Aaron says Roxanne can't win a match. Yeah, that's right. She has that streak going for her, too. Who's the bigger loser on Raw right now? Joe Hendry or Roxanne Perez? Did Roxanne get an entrance? I think she did. If Roxanne got an entrance tonight, then she's at least better off than Joe Hendry is. We got Give Me Backshot Solomonster. Hey, you were that guy in the bathroom. Braun needs to shoot fight Triple H, Roman, and Heyman. He needs to go all Steiner on them. You got me wrestling fucking Tozawa at SummerSlam. So their grand plan for Braun Breaker. Dried Chicken says the police protecting Brock Lesnar. Says, damn Triple H, it's true. He overprotects his favorites. Hey, don't call him Papa H. That just sounds fucking ridiculous. He does, look, he has favorites, I'm sure, just like anybody else does. And he will protect them at all costs. Super Pony. So thank God they took the layup. So happy for Chad. If they give him and Penta at least 15 minutes, we're looking at a match of the year. Dude, if they give them 12 minutes, you don't think those two aren't going to go out there with their working shoes on that night looking to steal the show? Right, Chicken says, R.I.P. Sam Neill. Yes, he passed away today. I did see that. Drew McIncock says, when will title matches be added to Be the Booker? Would love to see Brett versus Angle for the 24/7 title in a Punjabi prison match. You may be getting belts very soon. You may be getting belts very soon. John with the $10 super chat. Then we'll get to Nick. I jumped onto X to check out the IWC. Always a dangerous thing to do, John. And my God, it's insufferable. I know the tribalism is bad on all platforms, but X is honestly exhausting. Anyways, thank you, Solo, for all you do. Appreciate you. I appreciate you as well. Yeah, as you compare all the different platforms, X is by far the worst. It's addicting. People will try to pull themselves away from it, and they get sucked back into it, and they follow certain accounts, maybe, or they have a lot of contacts and trade DMs with people. There's different reasons for staying on there, but it is an absolutely just a fucking cesspool of garbage on there. You are not wrong about that. Nick says, now that Gable has his title match, maybe before or after SummerSlam, Penta goes heel, and we get Dark Penta. We are not getting Dark Penta. Penta is not going heel. That I can tell you. Penta is not going heel. Penta enjoys being a babyface. WWE, I think, likes him being a babyface. They send him out there to do media and stuff, and he's meeting kids. Penta is for the kids now. They're not going to trade that in for a heel turn. Also, does Tatum Paxley debut at MSG to help Lyra? I would guess yes. I think so. I think that'd be a good spot for her to debut. Dried Chicken says, I would love to buy Maxine and Lyra a double bacon cheeseburger and chili cheese fries on the side. That sounds disgusting. I'm getting heartburn just reading that. I would rather watch the Elegance brand over the Vision. So would I. You and me both. Chicago 4 MBK, the mismanagement of Braun is criminal. Yes, they should be brought up on charges. I agree. Dry Chicken says, Braun Breaker and Carmelo Hayes should be sent to AAA. Aaron says, Braun Breaker is on the Ryback trajectory. So he'll be shooting TikToks and doing food challenges? I sure hope not. Is he on TikTok? I don't even know if he's on TikTok. Alexander says, does Maxine gain 200 pounds and start... Does Maxine gain 200 pounds and start wearing a penguin-like suit to mimic Heyman as the new leader of the... All she has to do is waddle back and forth when she walks out. I would not advise the whole gaining 200 pounds thing. I think that would be bad. She has abs. She has abs. I mean, she just want to get rid of those. Lyra was hanging out with Tyrone Biggums. Paul Carpenter says, give Lyra the hearing voices gimmick that Bayley was supposed to have. In my opinion, it would work better the way Lyra's mannerisms are. How about we don't give anybody the voices gimmick because it's just dumb? How about we don't do that? Although I don't disagree with you. When she walked out there kind of looking and acting the way that she was, she did sound like maybe she had some voices in her head. She looked the part more than Bayley did when she was doing the gimmick. But I think we could just leave the gimmick out altogether. Alexander, Lyra should come out with the crow face paint. A Sting version, huh? Wow. A Sting. Is she going to be up in the rafters at Madison Square Garden this weekend? She'll be up in the rafters watching all the earlier matches and then coming down eventually for hers. St. James says the ad breaks tonight were so bad I should give all my Netflix money to you and cancel my subscription. 15 to 20 minutes of ads for the Gauntlet match. Look, here's the reality of it. Ads are, they're a necessary evil. Everybody does them. It's the way that they spread them out during the matches. During a Gauntlet match, you have to expect it because the Gauntlet is going to go 20, 25, 30 minutes. They've done Gauntlet matches that are 40 plus, right? Of course you're going to have commercials. I'm just talking about, in some cases, regular standard like 6 or 7 minute matches that just get literally cut in half or more by a commercial break. And not everybody is using a VPN to watch it during the break. So what are you even watching? What are you actually getting with some of these matches? You're seeing the opening 90 seconds, and if you're lucky, you'll get a few minutes at the end. They butcher the matches themselves, and it takes you out of it, or it just, sometimes during the breaks is when some of the high spots happen, and you don't even see them. Because most of the time they don't replay them when they come back. There have been times where I'll have the VPN on and I'm watching a match. I can tell they're going to commercial, but I can continue to watch. And there'll be like some big spot off the top. I'm like, holy shit. And then they'll come back and they don't bother replaying it. They have to do a better job of just managing them or spreading them out. Or if you're going to have like a big main event, maybe you front load it a little bit so that you can go commercial free for the main event. That's one thing I will give him credit for. If he had any say in the matter, when Russo was writing and booking in the late 90s, he has said that like we would never like have commercials during the main events. Like absolutely not. Like during our main events, you let that main event play out. And I thought about that and I was like, there may have been times where some of those Raw main events would have a commercial break, but he's not wrong. I can't really remember it being a regular occurrence. Like you would watch those main events and a lot of them would go overtime. They would go into like an overrun, and I don't remember them having commercials. So how is it that they were able to get away with that back then, but they can't now? Or is it just the fact that there's so many more? So many more that it just makes it impossible for them to do so. That's the issue. Yeah, Z-Ray says you didn't even see the opening of the Jimmy and Royce match. Yeah, that match literally started during the commercial break. The angle to set it up and then the actual beginning of the match all happened during a commercial break. And then when they came back in progress, they went to another commercial 90 seconds later. How do you review a match like that? That's why I say, like, it was a match. What do you want me to say about it? There's nothing to say. They were out there doing moves, waiting for the referee to tell them, okay, we're at commercial. And then waiting for the referee to tell them, okay, we're back. That's it. That's all it was. Dry Chicken says, we need to will it into existence. If Leo Rush talks about the rain, Wembley crowd needs to sing Have You Ever Seen the Rain by Creedence Clearwater. Yeah, I mean, I why would he talk about the rain? He would talk about him. He's fine. It's fine. It's fine. The Oracle, is Braun on a Ryback / Braun trajectory? I hope not. What a waste. What a waste that would be. Pseudo TPK Raw on Netflix Monday nights at 8 p.m. rated TV BS. How did you know? How did you know that that was the show's new rating? Ashley, I called the Oba stuff on X and was mocked. Which Oba stuff are you referring to? The ridiculous explanation that was given? You got to be more specific. And EJ Slemp with a $4.99. When does Lola Vice get called up? If WWE cut her or JC Jane, I feel like they would thrive in AEW. Tony Khan would love them like Storm and Monet. Well, I hope not. I hope they get a chance on the main roster before they would get cut. Boy, that would suck. To not even give them a chance. I have no idea when Lola gets called, though. Lola's another one who feels like they're just waiting for the right moment, to get her on most likely SmackDown. Would be my guess that when she gets called up, she will be on SmackDown. And EJ says, you asked which crush I would pick for my boy stable. Heel crush, 93 to 95, with Mr. Fuji. Fuji was so bad, he was awesome. He just threw salt every match. Yeah, Fuji was, it was funny because at that point, somebody would throw a punch and he would take a bump, but it would be like the slowest fall down onto the apron. Like you would throw a punch at him and then it was like a tree that was tipping over ever so slowly as he would fall down to the mat. 93 to 95 crush. Really, I'm more of a Kona crush guy myself. Shaka bra, right? He would do the crush. He was wearing the yellow and the purple and the orange. Shaka bra. All right, we're currently sitting at 541 likes. So we're going to get one round. We're going to get one shot at Be the Booker tonight. Let's make the most of it. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to Be the Booker.
Going to have to make this a good one because we only have one round tonight. Start with tag teams. Triple H's biggest nightmare. Power and Glory. Hercules and Paul Roma, and there he is, the Slickster. Doesn't get enough love, the Slickster. Actually, this team doesn't get enough love. What a great finish. The Powerplex. That Powerplex combo. It's a fantastic tag team finish. I'm glad that FTR adopted it. I just wish that they would use it as a finish occasionally and not just as a setup to the Shatter Machine. Ashley says, you retweeted my comment about Oba picking Bra. I don't remember that, but I believe you. And then we have, Stone Cold Steve Austin and Shawn Michaels wearing his Homer Simpson shirt. Power and Glory against Austin and HBK. Sign me up. I dig that. Women's Be the Booker, we have the Queen of Spades, the most dominant champion in the women's division in the history of NXT, Shayna Baszler, who it was just announced today, the deal has been done. The deal is official. Shayna Baszler will be challenging for the HOG Women's Championship Friday night, August 7th at the NYC Arena, live and free on YouTube against Shotzi. This will be her warm-up match for the HOG show. Wouldn't it be something if we landed on Shotzi? Oh my fucking God. I swear to you, I did nothing. I pushed a button That's all I did. I am this thing can hear me. I don't know how. I don't know how it's possible, but this thing can hear me. I'm convinced that this thing has a mind of its own. There's no fucking way that just happened. There's no way that just happened. The words had barely left my mouth, and I see Shotzi in a tank on my screen. Are you fucking kidding me? Hashtag rigged. It is not. It is not. Well, there you go. I mean, look. It was sometimes these things are just meant to be. Sometimes these things, it's just fate, and there's really nothing you could do about it. But if you want to see that match, it does not have to be a fantasy warfare scenario. This match will be a reality next month. Oh my God. That's fucking creepy. That is creepy as shit. You know how many dozens of women are in Be the Booker in that round? Oh my God. So here we go. All right, we got our main event here. Oh, yes, and more people will be watching it than you at any point in your life, Johnny. And you know it's true. Here we go. We got Rusev, who was in the Gauntlet tonight. He didn't have a lot of luck. He didn't have a lot of success. I don't suspect he will have a lot of success here either, but we have to pick an opponent for him. It all depends on who he lands on as his opponent. Here we go. Oh, he's definitely not winning this one. That's for damn sure. It ain't going to work out too well for this guy. Yeah, it ain't going to be Rusev Day when he is in there with the immortal Hulk Hogan. This is going to be one of those old school 80s matches where Hulk goes in there and sells and sells and sells for the foreign menace, but then in the end, he falls to the Hulkster. This is a match right out of Saturday Night's Main Event in 1987. That's what this is. Well, there you go. Hulk Hogan and Rusev closes out the night. Hogan must pose. He'll have his chance to pose here at the very end. Rusev Day don't work for me, brother. Unless, of course, Rusev decides to drop Hogan on his head or something, and then...
Oh, you got me, brother.
Get Linda and the kids on the phone, brother. Get the rosary beads. Thank you, guys, for another fun stream tonight. The work continues. We got a brand new episode of the Uncrowned Wrestling Show coming up tomorrow. Tomorrow night, we'll have a brand new Tuesday Night Titans as well. And then Wednesday, we have the Dynamite post show, the first Dynamite since Kenny Omega won back the AEW World Championship. We'll get a better sense, hopefully, of what the hell is going on at Redemption later this month. SmackDown on Friday, and then we have Saturday night's main event. I will be live on YouTube for that. That'll be on Saturday night as soon as the show is over. And then it leads right into a brand new sound off. You guys know the drill. Episode 971 went up yesterday, so be sure to go check that out if you have not already done so. Leave a like on your way out. Have yourselves a good rest of your night. Super Pony. I just spotted Super Pony. Shouldn't Gunther get suspended for what he did on Friday? Also, remember when Braun was the favorite to win the Rumble no longer than a few months ago? It feels like a lifetime ago, doesn't it? Yeah, I don't think anybody is picking him to be a favorite for anything right now. As far as Gunther, should he be suspended? Of course, he should be fired for what he did. He should be fired for being realistic here. Cecil coming in late. Cecil Robinson here, $4.99. Glad I was at Madison Square Garden for Cena and Sheamus' last Raw appearances. Sheamus against Big Show at Hell in a Cell 2012 for the world title was a good match. Was that the one where Big Show had the oversized chair? Or was that their chairs match? That was the chairs match, I think. Yeah, Sheamus and Big Show, I think, had a good chemistry when they were in the ring together. I remember them having a couple of good matches. The oversized chair, I'll never get over that, though. The biggest chair I've ever seen in my life. I said, that's funny. That was actually well done. Aaron, who would you trust between Hogan, Nick Khan, and The Rock? I mean, I don't know that I would trust any of them. If I had to pick one who I would put my faith and trust in, of the three, I would have to go Rock. Rock is getting into Hogan territory, though. I think my favorite recent Rock story, it's not even that recent. I think it was a reused clip from when he was on Joe Rogan. I don't know how long ago it was. It might have been a couple of years ago now, but he told that story about how he almost became a fighter in Pride. Just the way he tells the story, I'm like, so full of shit. Oh, man. Am I going to be at Fanatics Fest this week? No, I will not. I will not be at Fanatics Fest. I got to work, brother. We got SmackDown. We got Saturday night's main event. I got other shit to do. Where am I going to Fanatics Fest? If I wanted to get a Jalen Brunson photo or autograph or whatever, it's like $900. I will not be able to attend Fanatics Fest. But if you are going, have fun. I know they're going to have a whole bunch of different people there and celebrities and athletes and all kinds of stuff. They're invading New York this week. Yeah, that's right. Ricky says we got the sound off this weekend. I have shows basically from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. At least one show every day. So I ain't going nowhere. All right, be well. Stay safe. Again, have yourselves a great rest of your night. Thank you for hanging out with me on another Monday night. And come on back. Come on back on Wednesday for the Dynamite Post Show right here live on YouTube. Until then, take care, guys.